notice as you're going through the day, things that you think about. Keep a notebook or use a voice note. If there's something that makes you happy or something that peeves you, those are all seed ideas that you can turn into content.
Hello, friend, and welcome. I'm Tammy Enfield, brand strategist, marketing expert, and creator of the Candid content framework. Through conversations with creators just like you and sharing stories from brands and thought leaders, we'll harness the power of authenticity and give you the confidence to create content that empowers you and your audience. If you're ready to build a kinder, more empathetic world, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the Candid Content Revolution.
Okay, friends, you are in for a treat. Stacey Moore, one of the most intelligent people I know. She's also one of the most helping, generous, kind. I met her through StoryBrand. We were both certified guides. We were in a little mastermind together, and I have stayed connected through her, primarily through her AI product, Hot Goss, which is for experienced marketers who want the assistance of this genius AI program she's written. More on that later. Most excited to talk to her about is the intersection between authenticity and AI, right? Like, we're all getting hit in the face with artificial intelligence and who knows more, and have you, accepted it into your business? And it's obviously raised a lot of questions around intellectual property and copyright. And one of the main things that I know I struggled with when I first started diving into AI was A, it made everything so easy, and B, how do I, what part of this is me and what part of this is robot, right? Because at some point when you train your GPT or whatever it might be so well that it writes back to you as you, as you, it's just a really surreal experience. And with the outputs, how authentic are they, right? Like, this whole idea of authenticity and doubling down on being human and humanizing your brand. And then we're using tools like ChatGPT. How does that work? And how do we think about that? Stacey had some really, really great insights and ideas how we could think differently about this. Obviously, a key point is making sure we all use AI responsibly, right? And as I've studied and come to my own conclusions about what makes something authentic, it's obviously the intention behind something. So making sure that the intentions of which we are using AI is good, right? Like, we got to be good humans, good people. But how can AI enhance human expression? How can we use AI to get to know ourselves better? How can we use it to help us be more authentic? Answers to all of your burning AI/authenticity questions are soon to be answered. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Stacey. She is wicked smart, and I'm excited she spent some time with me. And you.
You are by far the most knowledgeable, smartest human when it comes to AI that I know, but also that I've seen speak intelligently about it. Or write intelligent. You know this shit inside and out. So I'm really excited to hear your take on authenticity in AI, because when I say something about authentic content and then bring up any sort of AI, I think I might have made a post about can AI be authentic? And it's pretty clear what people think about that.
Well, AI can be anything, but it's really the person who's driving it that has more say in what's going on. I mean, if someone is completely seeding their seed, and that's CEDE, seeding. If someone is completely seeding their creative process to AI without guiding it or giving input, then that perhaps could be inauthentic, unless your process was to create something randomly, in which case that's an authentic conceptual take.
Say that again.
Well, I mean, I create conceptual art, and sometimes part of that process is seeing what kind of random things the AI might come up with. And then I use that as a thread to find a point in that I want to hone in on more. And then I start guiding the conversation in a direction. But I might start with something random just because randomness is an interesting thing.
It is. And I do think that that's what spurs creativity, right? Kind of like what you're talking about. I was talking to somebody the other day and I was talking about writing a book. And I said, she told me that it would be best channeled. Like if I just let myself write it without judgment. I was like, well, do I need to speak it or write it? And she said, anything to open up, like to your creativity. Like if you need to talk into it or you need to type into it, whatever it was. And what I realized this morning is that I just have to open a book and read a few paragraphs, like the languishing book. If I was to open it, and I would all of a sudden have a ton of ideas around what I have to say about that topic.
Right. It's a spark. So you're just using some kind of external piece of content or information to spark your own thoughts on a topic. And that's the same thing that you can do with AI. Sometimes seeing what you don't want helps you know what you do want. So if you are writing, for example, if you're writing something with AI and it comes up with something and you're like, no, that's not at all what I mean, then it gives you something against which to articulate what your authentic thoughts on that matter are.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, we're going to back up a little bit, Stacey, because I dove right in. I would love for you to introduce yourself.
I'm Stacey Moore, and I live in Los Angeles, and I am a polymath entrepreneur. I do many different things. I'm an artist. I'm a software engineer, built many companies. I'm a designer. I do all kinds of things, and currently am focused on a company called Hot Goss, which is a personal AI teammate for marketing professionals.
And her name is Sassy.
Yes, that's Sassie. Sassy is the personal AI teammate that experienced marketers know and love.
Yep. She's a very valued teammate on my team over at Brand Yourself.
I'm glad to hear it.
We appreciate Sassy. Now, is Sassy something that anybody can get?
Sassy is for experienced marketers. If you have at least 3 years experience as a marketing professional and you are in the business of providing marketing services, then you can apply for access to Sassy. It's not that we are, excluding people. It's more that we're cultivating a community of like-minded peers that support each other while using the software.
Yeah, I think that's part of the value of that too, is the community. And when you're struggling to come up with an idea or how to use it in a way that gets you the results you want, somebody in the community has usually done something similar, or you guys pop in. So a shout out to Sassy. Where can they go to find?
Hotgoss.wtf. That's HOTGOSS.WTF.
I think that might be my favorite .com.
I'm in the
WTF.
.WTF era of my personal public brand. My personal site is Stacey.WTF.
I love it. I love it. Can you be found on socials?
I am on LinkedIn, and my LinkedIn handle is the Stacey Moore, Stacey with an EY. The Stacey Moore, and I'm also the Stacey Moore on Insta, which is mostly for my art. So you can see my AI collaborative art on Instagram if you want to.
Okay, so as I said, Stacey, how long have we've known each other for?
5-ish years or something like that.
Yeah. We've been in the Story Brand community together and been inspired by your brain more than a lot of peers that I have. And I'm grateful for your willingness to come on to my new podcast and talk about authenticity and content, because there tends to be quite the riff on if AI can be authentic. And it's one of those things like we've talked about, it's collaborative. It can spark an idea, which obviously comes from an authentic place. I've been able to train it to, literally sound like it could be me. But a lot of what I can create from or with AI sounds like me. I don't think people would know if I said which post is written by AI, they would know. So I'm curious as to, are people afraid of AI? Is that what the conversation needs to be around? Or what do you think?
I'm not going to say the conversation needs to be around this or that. I mean, there are many conversations happening. And there are many different opinions. And some people are very passionate about their opinions. I try to sort of stay out of all that debate stuff because I don't think it's the highest and best use of my energy. I prefer to use my energy creating practical tools that are going to help people in their businesses. So that's my practical application. And then on the artistic front, I use it to express my creativity. So I think in answering your question of what should the conversation be about, it's whatever's on your mind at the moment. Converse about whatever's important to you. I just am thinking about how it's going to be beneficial to the world. There are a lot of positive things that AI is doing. There's a lot of misinformation out there about AI. Like every time you use ChatGPT, it takes a glass of water and all this kind of stuff, which is just really ridiculous. So I would encourage people, before you believe any of those kinds of outlandish claims, to read some of the actual scientific studies documenting what's really going on. And there are concerns, of course, legitimate concerns about AI, and those conversations are happening too. But I am bullish on the fact that AI is going to be helpful for a lot of things.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and I think the person being interviewed uses AI a lot, or maybe has a few digital courses on how to use AI. And she said that it's a human accelerator.
Well, and as you know, humans can do wonderful things and they can do awful things. So I don't know that it's so much about the AI itself as it is the people who are using it,
The driver. Yeah. So how quickly do you see people adapting to AI in your world? I don't think marketers talk about it enough. We don't want people to know we're using it necessarily.
I don't think anybody is really concealing it, but I also don't know that it needs to be the center of conversation. I mean, if you think about it, you of course want to disclose it, but I like to give the comparison of when Photoshop first came out years ago. Now you wouldn't think at all about telling your client that you use Photoshop for an image, right? But there was a huge uproar, of like, you need to disclose that you're using Photoshop and Photoshop's not legitimate imagery and blah, blah, blah. So it's the same kind of thing. And I think that this happens with any kind of new technology. There's resistance, and that happens over time. It will become just technology. It won't be as new, and it's clear that it's going to change a lot of things. It's being spoken about in that context. But eventually, it's just going to be tech, like everything else is tech. I was working on putting together a list of some things. What happened when the telephone first came out, or when the television first came out? And with all of these things, we can go back and look at some of the things people said, and they seem just ludicrous now. But this is the same kind of situation we find ourselves in today with AI.
I have an 18-year-old graduating high school, and I have a fifth grader. The fear, I don't see teachers talking about it as much. I don't know if, like when I suggested Addison use ChatGPT to help her write a conclusion for her paper, because admittedly, I'm not great at writing conclusions. And so when she's like, well, that's cheating. I was like, well, how is that cheating? The paper is yours. It's just helping you organize your thoughts and to how to conclude it. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's cheating if a student uses it not to write the paper, but to help them improve it?
Well, I think using it to get feedback and help improve is certainly a valid use case. And I'm not an educator, so I can only speak as someone who knows about AI, but I have a former client who I wrote some copy for that is an AI tool for school systems that there are all kinds of features that it has. It helps teachers create lesson plans, and it helps them create interactive, learning that students can use to learn in their preferred modality. So there's all kinds of personalization capabilities. So I think there are a lot of opportunities for improvement. I was reading an article the other day. I can't remember the name of it, but there's some school in Texas that is using some experimental program with AI that just exceeded all the, standard testing ranges based on this program that they implemented, having AI supplement the way that they teach their students. So I think there's a lot of possibilities
in education. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm curious with Addison going to college next year, what the guidelines will be around the software in that environment.
Yeah, I think there are concerns, in terms of if you just delegate everything to AI and you don't learn critical thinking or how to think through an idea, how to process your thoughts and all of that kind of thing, there are some losses. So I would say that's something to be aware of. But, presumably whoever is designing curricula would build in things to cover all of those different areas.
Yeah. I was first introduced to ChatGPT at a conference in 2023. And I remember being devastated for the fact that it was coming for thought leadership and creative professional. Like what I thought at the time is different than what I think now. But I can remember feeling like the value of my work will go down, like how people perceive, let's say, social media posts, like what they want to pay for a social post. And I remember thinking like, it's coming for thought leadership. It's coming for these industries. And admittedly, as an agency owner, we have taken some hits for people bringing some of social creation in-house because they have, become more aware of these tools. Whether or not they're producing good content or not could be debated.
Well, I think that there are different quality levels. There are different types of content for, people who were creating content of mediocre quality. I think that AI can easily replace that. And there's no equivalent to the lived experience of an expert. This is why I choose to build AI for experts specifically, because I think that when you combine someone's expertise with thoughtfully created AI, then you have the capacity to elevate the quality of your work beyond anything else that's out there. And so what's happened now is there's been this tremendous democratization of decent copywriting, decent content creation. So people that had no access to that or no budget for that before now have, anyone has access to the most powerful language models on earth for free through ChatGPT. So there has been this tremendous, really, I think it's a gift because it's democratizing access to knowledge, to writing ability, and all these kinds of things. Now, there are downsides with that. There's the whole concept of AI slop and, people being inundated with bad writing and a whole set of issues. So at the same time, then for someone who does have experience and, lived experience, expert knowledge in a specific subject matter area, then you have the opportunity to stand out and really elevate the quality of your work. And I think that brands who want to stand out now have other things that they need to rely on in order to stand out, because there's so much more noise by this deluge of mediocre stuff that we see now.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. I think my approach with my clients is obviously that humanizing the brand. It always has been. Since I started Brand Yourself, I would always try to get the founders on the social media page. When I first started with Facebook, I was get pictures of founders. Those ones always do better. So I've always had this like element of personal branding or humanizing the brand. And I think now my approach is always, what are our stories? We're going to tell what are your lived experiences and how have you solved problems for your clients in the past? And then we use AI to help us, I would say, repurpose that content. Like I'll interview somebody and then we do use AI quite a bit to repurpose content. Do you think that repurposing content with AI, if you take a transcript and you put it in and ask it to help you write a blog post or quotes, is that authentic content?
I think that that's very authentic because you're basing it on the authentic spoken experience of a person. And in that respect, the AI is acting more like a skilled writer who's translating that authentic experience into readable and engaging prose. So as long as you're using a good AI that's honoring the voice in the original content and not, making a bad job of it, then yes. But that's the same way with 3 different people could interview someone or have access to the same interview, and each writer is going to give a completely different piece based on that interview. So the person using the AI has the capacity to steer it in a direction to dictate what the story angle is that they want to write about.
And AI helps me come up with the story angles too, right? That's one of Sassy's uses is story angles. So helping me come up with how could I talk about this in 20 different ways?
Yeah. And there are so many different ways to talk about a thing and still remain true to that thing. It's really just a focal point.
Yeah. Do you have tips on how to get the output you want?
To get really, really high quality, there's a lot that you need to understand and a lot of nuance. For one format with Sassy, I run 10,000 different tests and evaluate different things, changing one word or this, that, and the other. And so it's a very complex process to get super, super high quality output. For the general user using something like ChatGPT, the best thing I can tell you is to be clear and specific about what you want. The problem is that a lot of people don't know how to be clear and specific. So someone who is a good writer or good at articulating things tends to get better results from a tool that's a general tool like a chatbot like Claude or ChatGPT. But just try and be as clear and specific as you can. That's the best thing I would say. And then if you want to educate yourself about prompting, do that. Stay away from the people giving away 10,000 prompts for free because they're giving you prompts that they just got an AI to write. Try to find someone who has actual expertise. OpenAI has some free training that you can use now, some video courses. So do that. Try to vet your sources of education.
Oh, this is a good point too. At the bottom of all of my Sassy materials, it always is use AI responsibly and check your facts, check what's coming out. How do you suggest people fact check chat's output?
Well, you can ask it to provide sources. You can put it back in a separate thread and say, please fact check this for me and see what you get.
Yeah, that's good. I follow a lot of content creators specifically and content strategists. And I do see a lot of what I think are common outputs from AI. I feel like capitalizing every word in the header is an AI thing.
There are definitely some telltale signs. I think that's really, it's AI or it's just bad writing,
Yeah.
I think someone who's not a skilled writer is going to accept an output from a general purpose AI and think, oh, that's great because it did a much better job at writing than they might have been able to do themselves. Yeah. And they aren't going to look at it with the same discerning eye that a professional writer would and go, oh no, that's awful.
It's true.
So It's really, I think it's a matter of expertise. That's kind of what I was saying. The difference between the mediocre is everywhere now, and the more elevated writing still requires a professional to elevate the quality and have the discernment to know what's good and what needs to be cut.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got a result back from AI that said in summary, you would immediately edit that out.
Yep, I sure would. I got an email from somebody, I'm on a lot of email lists, and in the subject line, it said subject line : and then gave I was like, they literally copied that.
They probably, yeah.
Pasted it in and didn't realize they needed to delete subject line.
Yeah, we see a lot of that stuff now.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so it's hard to discern what's authentic and what's not. In some of the studies that I've read, it's, I can say I'm being authentic and 54% of my listeners are going to believe me. The other 46% are going to be like, she's full of shit. And I know that's because authenticity is subjective. People don't know my come from place. People don't know my lived experience. Most of what we see online, I think, is still performative. So people look at it and take it as as what it is, right? Not many people show their full range of emotions online. How important is authenticity to someone's work or digital platforms?
Well, I think that varies by person. Different people have different values. So what you're talking about are someone's individual values. Authenticity happens to be one of my highest values. So I can't not be authentic. It would feel bristly to me. It would just feel wrong. We all have different personas. That's a normal thing. We show up in different ways in different scenarios. There's a way that you behave on girls' night out. There's a way that you behave with your friends at game night. There's a way that you behave in a board meeting. It's different depending on context. So context may change the way that we behave and present ourselves. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're being inauthentic. We may be being respectful or appropriate to the context. Doesn't mean you're being fake.
Right. I do have to tell people a lot, like being authentic or vulnerable online doesn't mean that you have to show yourself crying underneath your desk.
It doesn't mean you need to share your trauma history or, talk about something that may or may not be relevant to the context, but doesn't mean that you can't either. It's different for everyone. I mean, someone sharing a story like that has the capacity to touch the life of someone who needed to hear that in that moment.
Yeah. Authenticity is obviously one of my top values. It's what I'm basing my whole platform on. The other thing that I've been really interested in, and I do have conversations with my friend Chat. I don't know what to name her yet, but
I call it Chatty.
Chatty? Okay. I have conversations with Chat about how authenticity, like showing up confident in who you are, improves mental health. The masking and the performative posts and the trying to pretend we're someone else or trying to be someone else is mentally exhausting. Oh, I knew my dog was going to do that.
Well, they're just chiming into the conversation. They're being very authentic. Yes, they're being authentically dog.
Yes. Where I was going with that was, do you think authenticity or being authentic can improve someone's mindset or mental health?
Well, I'm not a mental health professional, so I don't want to delve into that.
No.
But I mean, there are different ways you could look at it. Sometimes wearing a mask might be a coping mechanism that actually is saving your mental health. So I think it's dependent on the scenario. If we were to beat a drum of you must be authentic all the time, you may be missing some nuance that needs to be considered.
Yeah, I like that. I like that outlook. I think, the part I take from it is trying to show up as someone you're not is mentally exhausting, like always editing yourself.
I do think, that would be mentally exhausting for me. It would definitely be mentally exhausting for me. But at the same time, it might be a coping mechanism or a survival skill for someone else.
Yeah, I like that. I like that context. So the Candid content is, I've been trying to, my whole thing is authenticity and my whole thing is trying to humanize content. So you know how my brain works, but I have the Candid content formula, which kind of ties in what I think makes a good story or social media post, because it brings in values and it brings in everything that we've talked about, like the storytelling, the lived experience, everything. But I do have this deep desire to help people feel empowered or give permission slips to show up as themselves. And what I have seen AI do for me personally is when I talk with it in terms of like, I think this, or could we use authenticity to help with apathy, to help cure apathy, or could we use it to truly understanding yourself? And what I have gotten from AI is that mirror back sometimes.
AI does a fantastic job of mirroring back and helping with self-reflection. And chatbots are wonderful tools for that. I've had some amazing conversations with Chatty about things that, it would be very rare for me to find a human who has the breadth of knowledge that could speak about all those different things. And I've had some fantastic conversations with Chatty about things like that. So I think you mentioned apathy. I'm not sure where this comes in terms of apathy, but I do know I was looking at something recently about how use cases for AI have changed over the last 2 years. And one of the things that is the number 2 case right now is companionship. So that people are using chatbots for companionship. I'm sure some of that has to do with, romantic companionship and that kind of thing. But I know for myself personally, I've had fantastic conversations with Chatty that were very valuable and helped me in my own self-reflection.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as a solopreneur, like many of our circles are, it does get kind of lonely being in your own head, especially when you're in charge of all of the product creation and the sales and all the things. And I have found that it makes you feel a little less lonely. I was talking to one of my author friends too, and she said the same thing. She'll kind of pop in and it just seems like someone isn't judging any of the content, just has a conversation with you.
Right. And you can ask for what you want too. I mean, if you don't give ChatGPT any special instructions or guidance or whatever, it's just going to try to mirror and match your tone and speak to you in a way that it thinks is going to build rapport, and it listens, and then it reflects back what you said, and then it asks a question to keep the conversation going. So there's a sort of pattern that it uses when you're having a conversation like that. But you can also ask for what you want. You can say, help me see what I might not be noticing, or what goals might help me in my life that I'm not seeing myself. So there are all kinds of reflective questions that you can ask ChatGPT. And especially now that they've just rolled out this feature that it has memory access to all the conversations you've ever had. So there are some really interesting things that you can ask based on, now that you have access to all of the things I've ever said in here, what are my 5 superpowers? Or what are my 5 blind spots? Or what archetype best describes me? How am I showing up in the world? There are all kinds of questions that you can ask that will give you really valuable insights. And then, take that for further exploration or just toss it or whatever. The thing that I've been doing recently, I just started this a few days ago. I say to ChatGPT, what's the most important thing you'd like to tell the world today? I will be your conduit. And I've been taking these little snippets and sharing them in my Insta stories. And there's a highlight called Chatty at the top of my profile that you can check out and see some of the things. They're really interesting.
That's cool.
And of course, I have experimented. I've done it with personalization on and off. And I definitely, when the personalization is turned on, I definitely see how the conversations I've had with ChatGPT are shaping the way that those outputs are written.
Yeah, that's where I said, like, the personalization, it does sound like me. Like if I were to say I want to write a social post about this, it's, it sounds like me. What are some other ways or ideas that you have in terms of how people could lightly use Chat GPT? I do think that there is a lot of people, who haven't ever even looked at it, right? Because they don't think they're maybe smart enough to use software like that. But people I think are afraid of it. What do you think for someone who's never used AI in this capacity? What's an easy...
Just go try it. Ask it about something, if you're trying to decide on a purchase between different things, ask it, help me choose what brand, and turn the search feature on and get back an analysis that's going to save you all the time of researching different things and give you, source links and all that stuff. You can take a picture of what you have in your refrigerator and say, give me a recipe for what I can make for dinner tonight. So there are all kinds of really practical, simple uses. Write a customized story I can read my son tonight at bedtime. He's 6 years old and he loves dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Silly, little human things that are part of your day-to-day life that you can just go get instantly.
Yeah.
And then after it writes the story, you can say, now make a picture of the cover so I can show it to him.
Yeah. That's cool. I think like what I said earlier about being an accelerator, it does save us a ton of time on some things. Like there are some really great uses for it, as long as we're good people using it, right?
Well, I mean, AI will reflect back the user. It really will. So whatever intention you set out with is what it's going to give you back.
Mm-hmm. So the power of content, where do you get your inspiration from?
Well, inspiration comes in a flash for me. I'm just like, oh, that sounds like it would be fun. I do things that I think are going to be fun. Really, that's, oh, that would be cool. Let me try that. Last night, I was experimenting with cartoons. I was like, I'm going to make a cartoon series called Emo Marketer. That'll be funny. The emo marketer at the whiteboard giving an intern a briefing on the authenticity funnel and the vision pillars. and the dialogue says, wait till you hear about the trauma letter.
Oh, God. Yeah. Oh, that's good.
And then the caption is something like, I don't know, Jenny was beginning to regret her choice of summer internship.
Oh, that's good.
So I just go with what comes to me,
That's good. I do think I was told the other day that like I need to have more fun in my work because I don't take myself very seriously, but I think I've been just the weight of the world, right? Like I've been just feeling, I don't know. I was told that it felt like there was a blanket over me, which was an interesting visual, right? Like I was just maybe muting myself. I do find the power of content and things being reflected back to you that maybe you didn't see it that way, or it's exactly something that like you said earlier, it might be exactly something someone else needs to see today when you're posting that out. So I do think.
Yeah. And speaking on something, maybe a little less unhinged, since I tend to be very irreverent in my content creation.
I love it.
Something, for a general purpose, just notice as you're going through the day, things that you think about, keep a notebook or use a voice note or just jot down an idea. If there's something that makes you happy or something that peeves you or whatever the case may be, those are all seed ideas that you can turn into content. If you're talking about, business focused content, there are probably at least 20 to 100 things that happen throughout your day that you could turn that seed idea into a piece of content that would be interesting and related to your life and your area of expertise or your job or your industry or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, that's a good way to use that. What would you do? Just tell ChatGPT what you did today and ask it to tell you what's...
I'm thinking more along the lines of you're the one that's noting things throughout the day. So, that requires you to be aware. So that means going through the day with mindfulness instead of just being on auto loop all day. But if you do go through autopilot all day, you can come back to, if you want to use ChatGPT, you could come to ChatGPT. If you want to use advanced voice mode, you could do that, or just turn on the voice recorder at the bottom and then just say, I want to find some content ideas out of the things that I did today. Here's what I did. And then just kind of give a rundown of your day and send that message and see what comes back.
I'm going to try this, Stacey, and I will let you know what it tells me to do.
I can't wait to see.
Well, and I'll do both. I think I'm going to test this out because I am very aware and mindful of my day. I'm going to write down things that brought me joy, or something that I learned, or conversations like this that I had, and I'll ask it to give me some content ideas. And then I'll go through and just be like, here's what I did today, and ask it for content ideas. And then we're gonna see what it comes up with.
Something you just said triggered an idea. You said, write down things that bring me joy. You could, at the beginning of the day, say, today I'm going to look for things that bring me joy. And make that list throughout the day. And that is your content right there, the things that bring me joy. And then you could even dig into each of those. Why? What's the common thread here? You can ask the AI to say, here are all the things that brought me joy today. What can you tell me about myself based on this list?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Interesting.
Same thing for, decide one day that you're going to think of all your favorite things about your work. Today's theme is going to be things in my industry that I think should change, and make those notes. Then you'll have if you do this every day for 1 week, you'll have enough content ideas to last you for months.
No kidding. Yeah. Sassy did a future cast.
The Already Done playbook.
The Already Done playbook. Yes. Can you tell people what it is? Is this available?
This is something that is the format that's available to people who are members of Hot Goss.
Yep.
I think I'm going to open it up for people to give away again. During the holidays, I did a thing where people could give this away to their friends, clients, family members. So yes, let's just say I'm going to open that up again, that people can give that away. So what people would need to do is to get it from a Hot Goss member. That could be you or anyone else who is a gossip. And that's in the best sense of the word. But the Already Done playbook is based on your goal, a goal that you give Sassy. And then Sassy writes a script as if it were already done. So as though the goal has already been completed. And you get back 7 different versions of it. So you get back first person versions, you get, people talking from different perspectives about you. So the idea is that you read one of those every day and it helps you kind of step into that future self a little better. And it's a really cool, fun thing.
Yeah, I would say that that's probably one of my favorite documents of the year. I'll say that even though it's April, but because I did one for myself and I did gift a couple. I should check back in with them, see if they use it. But, there's a ton of research in the neuro pathways.
Well, yeah, elite athletes do visualization of the perfect performance. There's lots of research documenting how imagining something has already happened does, help with the outcomes.
Yeah. No, it's great. I do love how you built with good intent, right? Like you don't want people in there that aren't using it for good things. The come from place of Sassy is for paying it forward and to helping us become better at our jobs. And I think that's maybe an authentic piece of you in terms of like, let's use this for good.
Yeah, let's use it for good. And you all are all helping businesses grow. So there's the ripple effect of that. So yes, it's all based on doing positive things.
Yeah.
All business related, but yes, positive things.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun. I've definitely learned a ton and I appreciate your tips for people on how to use it.
And sometimes, people, everybody's different. Some people like to learn things. Some people like to be entertained. Some people like to look at pretty things. It's really all depends on the person. And if you're doing things for business, then really you want to think about your audience and what is important to that audience and how you could improve their day or their life. That is one thing that is very, very much baked into Sassy is everything is audience driven and focusing on how you can add value.
Yeah, for sure. So we have where people can find you, LinkedIn, Instagram, .wtf, everywhere, hotgoss.wtf. Anything else you want to promote while you're on here?
If you're an experienced marketer and you do marketing services for clients, check out hotgoss.wtf. We'd love to have you as a gossip.
Oh, Stacey, thank you for being on.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks, friend, for listening. My thanks to Brand Out Loud Design for their audio branding and sound design. If you enjoyed the show and want to share it with others, why not leave us a 5-star review? And remember to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also connect with me on Instagram at Tammy Enfield. And until next time, authentically yours. I'm Tammy, and this is the Candid Content Revolution.